ETERNIGHTS takes a lot of inspiration from Persona, Devil May Cry, Final Fantasy 16, and Stellar Blade, but fails to deliver a unique take. Instead, it tries to be everything all at once. The combat is too easy even on the hardest difficulty. You barely need to block, as dodging requires no skill to execute flawless dodging and causing havoc on bosses and enemies alike. Then we have the day and night system that splits the game into a dungeon crawler by day and romance simulator by night. It works, but the quests make the same mistake as the combat. It's repetitive and boring. Thankfully, the voice actors does a great job of delivering relatable, funny, and minor explicit dialogue for a game that takes around 8 to 10 hours to complete. But the overall story could have needed another 1 to 2 hours to flesh out the character's development. Lastly, the aesthetics menu works as intended. I just wish the devs put more effort into removing the stock Unity appearance. Overall, I recommend ETERNIGHTS only if it's on sale. If you managed to stay this far, I appreciate it very much. That's my full and honest opinion on ETERNIGHTS. Having played the Persona series in recent years, having played Persona 5 Royal, Persona 4 Golden, and Persona 3 Portable, when I first saw ETERNIGHTS during one of PlayStation's State of Plays, I think like many of us, I couldn't help but draw the comparison. Heck, I even believe developers have stated in the past Persona was the reason he started making the game in the first place. The game is Studio Sai's very first game, initially developed by one person. The studio has since grown into a small indie studio. It's been 2 years since the game has launched, a great success, but is it any good? And does it stand out from the game it was inspired by? Let's find out. I knew nothing about the story coming into it, but knowing it was inspired by Atlus' popular series, I imagined it would take a lot of inspiration, and oh boy, it sure does. Because already in the game's opening, we can draw the first comparison. The silent protagonist. Just like the protagonist in Persona, the main character in ETERNIGHTS is a silent character whose name you get to decide. The story is about a teenager with too much free time, looking for a relationship when an anti-aging drug called ETERNIGHTS has gone wrong, causing the world to be separated by two walls, and most of the humans have turned into monsters. The main character loses his arm, but is given a glowing tentacle arm by a higher deity called Lux, and is forced to save the world from Umbra, Lux's evil counterpart, who is trying to take over the world. Lux is Eternity's Igor, and just like him, only the main character can contact them. Along the way, you encounter several people who join your team, and each with a unique ability that helps in and out of combat and potentially becomes a love interest. The story does nothing new we haven't seen before, and each character follows a common trope. We have, for example, Yuna, who is a mix of Rise and Yukari, the main character's best friend Shani, who is a mix between Junpei and Ruiji, and Sia, well, imagine if Takumi, Taba, and Yusuke merged into one character. Yeah, there you go. I still enjoyed it nonetheless. Each voice actor does a great job with the script they were given. It felt natural, humorous, cheesy, and explicit in relatable ways. I really did feel developers captured the spirit of what it would feel like if the world was going under for a bunch of teenagers. Furthermore, for a first game, the 2D visuals look stunning, but the 3D is a lot to be desired. My issue with the main story lies with its pacing. As the game only takes around 8 to 10 hours to complete, for a game that takes a lot of inspiration from Persona, I felt like it could fix the flaws of Persona, but not really. For example, much like Haru from Persona 5 Royal, some of the characters get introduced a little too late. Had the story been maybe 1 to 2 hours longer, the character development would felt complete. The gameplay copies the day and night system pretty much one for one. During the day, you progress through the dungeons, while at night, you either upgrade your stats or spend time with one of your party members to earn skill points or romance them. You don't have to follow the structure, but the dungeons are only available during the day. As for the dungeons themselves, they're pretty much similar to Persona, except it's not randomly generated maps, but it's a set number of pre-designed floors you have to progress to reach a boss fight in each act. Sometimes there are puzzles you need to solve before progressing. They are a welcome addition because they don't overstay their welcome, but you can definitely see the inspiration. As for the combat, this is where ETERNIGHTS stands out from Persona, but not necessarily in a good way. It is a 3D hack and slash, clearly taking notes from Devil May Cry, Final Fantasy XVI, and Stellar Blade. To defeat an enemy, you pretty much have to break their shields by attacking them with an elemental attack, they're weak to, and bring their health to zero. While I enjoy a good hack and slash, despite how terrible I am at it, but for Eternight's game mechanics, it felt very lackluster by comparison. At first, it feels exciting and epic, but once you get used to it, the dodging and blocking are very clunky, and the time window is inconsistent. Eternight tries to replicate the visual cues from Cellblade and God of War, which is a good start, but fails to understand what made them work in the first place. The cues are hinting what type of attack the enemy is using, but Eternights made every attack for most enemies both dodgeable and blockable, resulting in the time window for both overlapping. This results in a game that becomes too easy once you get the hang of the dodging, and once you complete the skill tree, your character gets overpowered. UI and user experience is not something we usually think about. If it's bad, then navigating the game becomes a nightmare, but if it's good, we don't pay attention. Based on that, you would think I dislike the UI, which is not necessarily the case. When I booted up the game for the first time, I quickly noticed the stock Unity design in the settings menu. How do I know this? As a former game developer student, having developed a lot of projects in Unity, it is pretty much instilled in my muscle memory how you can tell it's a Unity game. My nitpicks with the UI is just how I wish developers put more effort in making the UI match the look of the game's presentation, and the fact it's another game on Steam that does not support PlayStation icons despite the game being developed for PlayStation 4 and 5 consoles, which is strange, because it's in its game files. If you disable Steam input and plug in a PlayStation controller, it will show the PlayStation symbols but does not work. If you're coming into Eternights expecting an indie version of Persona, then you're almost right. Eternights does take a lot of inspiration, but does small things to make it different from that of Persona. But due to lack of experience from the studio, a lot of the game mechanics and presentation lacks the polish of a bigger studio. If the story had events between each arc, I believe the character development could have reached its potential, but what we're left with is a studio that's still learning its craft. The combat gets repetitive quickly due to spamming attack button and a few attack animations that looks and feel clunky. What saves it is the short game length of 8 to 10 hours, allowing for a lot of replayability in New Game Plus. Overall, I recommend Eternights, but I wouldn't pay full price and just wait for sale.